Flying High with Times Tables Home Learning at St Helens. This presentation is going to be sharing an overview of the following features: our school vision and times tables progression, what resource we are using, why we are using it, and how we can use it at home so that we have a joined up approach between home and school. First of all, here is our school vision. The focus of times tables teaching and learning is on developing fluent step counting and conceptual understanding of what multiplication and division facts represent and how times tables are structured. Timetables are taught daily or 3 times a week with slightly longer sessions to ensure that learning is revisited regularly to enable the children to retain and fly high with factual fluency. Our approach involves using Funkey maths step counting PowerPoints and playing games with cards, which provides a safe, fun and sociable space to learn times tables. Times Tables Rockstars is also used to complement the teaching of times tables during short bursts of time in the ICT suite or as home learning. Times tables on Times Tables Rockstars are set to the times tables that the children have already learnt or are currently learning in class, but only after the initial teaching phase has been completed. This is an important strategy to keep the cohort together in their times tables learning. By the end of Key Stage 1, we want all children to be able to step count forwards and backwards in steps of 1, 2, 5 and 10 to 100. This will hugely strengthen their number sense between 0 to 100 and will set them up to succeed in Key Stage 2 in developing number sense beyond 100. We also want children to have rapid recall of 2, 3, 5 and 10 times table facts by the end of Key Stage 1, but the mechanism for developing automaticity in these facts should be, in the first instance, be developed through knowledge of doubling facts to 20 for the 2 times table and strong conceptual understanding of place value for the 10 times table. Our aim is for the children to be fluent in describing the links between a product and its factors in terms of 2 models of multiplication and 2 models of division. In Key Stage 2, there is a dual focus on deepening conceptual understanding and the ability to reason around multiplication and division structures, and also the acquisition of key facts to automaticity. By the end of Year 3, we want the children to also have rapid recall of the 4, 8 and 6 times tables prior to consolidating the 7, 9, 11 and 12 times tables in Year 4. Here is our times tables progression. You will see throughout our times tables progression that we have also made reference to our Big Maths Learn It facts, which are addition facts that we want the children to learn to automaticity to ensure that they have great fluency with their core skills in maths. Here you can see the early years foundation stage referenced in the times tables progression. It's really important that we think about the children's initial steps in their learning journey towards developing their understanding of times tables. As you can see in early years, in term 5 and 6, the children will be aiming to secure the early learning goals as follows. So verbally counting beyond 20, recognising the pattern of the counting system through the knowledge of counting in tens. This will also involve a focus on reasoning and structure, developing a secure recall of number bonds to 5 and some number bonds to 10. With times tables in mind, the children will begin by developing a secure understanding of sharing and grouping, ensuring that they distribute items fairly and recognise when items are distributed unfairly. The children will also be aiming to gain a secure understanding of odd and even numbers, which links to making pairs and sharing equally between 2 groups. In Key Stage 1, Big Maths is prioritised at the start of each year group to ensure that prior learning is secure. In Year 1, the national curriculum states that the children should achieve a secure understanding of counting in 1s, 2s, 5s and 10s to 100. As you can see in Term 6, we have made the decision for the children in Year 1 to progress onto the 10 times tables. The children will be building on their prior learning of step counting to recall facts and will link their learning to using 10 pence coins and showing repeated addition on a number line. In Year 2, the national curriculum states that the children should achieve a secure understanding of their 2s, 5s and 10s times tables, building on their prior learning of step counting in Year 1. Similar to Year 1, we have made the decision for our Year 2 children to progress onto the 3 times tables in Term 5. The reason being that step counting in 3s is within the Year 2 national curriculum, so they will be building on this learning. The focus of times tables teaching and learning in Year 2 is on developing fluent step counting and conceptual understanding of what multiplication and division facts represent and how times tables are structured. Times tables and times tables rock stars can be set as follows within our progression, however, only after the initial teaching phase has been completed. As previously shared, it is important for this strategy to keep the cohort together in their times tables learning. In Year 3, the national curriculum states that children should achieve a secure understanding of the 3, 4 and 8 times tables. Similar to Key Stage 1, we have made the decision for the children to progress onto their 6 times tables. The reason being that we really want to support our children with developing quick recall of multiplication and division facts prior to the multiplication check in Year 4. In Year 4, the children will progress onto consolidating the 7, 9, 11 and 12 times tables in preparation for the multiplication check, which happens in June. Within Year 5 and Year 6, intervention strategies will be put in place to support the children who are working below the expected standard. The aim of these interventions will be to support the children with developing secure step counting and recall of facts within 6 seconds, similar to what they experience within the Year 4 times table check. For all children within Year 5 and Year 6, they will focus on product exploration, with aiming to develop a rich understanding of related products, relationships between factor pairs for the same product, and ability to rapidly identify all factors, not just times tables factors. The children will also focus on primes and squares and developing their mathematical reasoning. Similar to previous year groups, there will be weekly rehearsal of known facts through application of times tables facts, including in other areas of maths, such as simplifying fractions. The Funkey Maths times tables cards have many games that the children can play, such as Funkey Uno, Funkey Rummy, Funkey Poker, Squares and Primes. As shared within our school vision, the resource that we are using is Funkey Maths times table cards. If you were to purchase these cards, you would receive a pack of cards, a card holder which supports the children with targeting particular facts, and a user guide which shares information on the cards and the 12 games that you can play. The children don't learn facts in isolation, they learn related facts together. There are only 59 cards to get to know all your times table facts up to 12 times 12. Children quickly grasp that the factors around the edge of the card show different ways the product can be divided into equal parts. They can then link the numbers on a card into multiplication and division facts as shown in the example below. The reason we have chosen Funkey Maths times table cards as our resource is because it is an interactive and game-based approach to the teaching of times tables. It involves step counting and recall to develop fluency in times table facts, and by learning through playing games with the cards, it provides a safe, fun, sociable space to learn and can build and restore confidence. The cards also really support with developing mathematical reasoning. It is so important to move beyond rote recall of facts to develop reasoning and the ability to explain mathematical thinking. The cards are catalysts for discussion between children and are springboards to higher level thinking. For example, children notice the relationships between factors. They can soon see that if one factor doubles and the other factor halves, the product doesn't change. This fact is hugely helpful. For example, 4.8 times 18 looks like a very tricky calculation until you double one factor and halve the other. Now the calculation is easy. For example, 4.5 times 18 is equal to 9 times 9, which is 81. The Funky Maths Times Tables cards really support the children with their visual memory. So for example, thinking about the colours, each times table has its own unique colour and background pattern. Having a look at the position of the numbers, factor times factor equals product. So for example, 3 and 5 are both called factors. 15 is the product of 3 and 5. The factor tells us different ways to arrange the total so they are in equal groups. For example, 3 groups of 5 make 15, or 5 groups of 3 make 15. In this example here, we can see that 3 and 3 are the factors, which tell us that it is a square number because both factors are the same. And when both factors are the same, the product is a square number. To help us with recognising that, there are shapes. So as you can see, as 9 is a square number, it is in the shape of a square. The kite reminds us that 3 is a prime number. 3 times 1 equals 3, and 1 times 3 equals 3. There are no other factors of 3. Here is why we are using Funky Maths Times Tables cards. Chanting can rely mainly on auditory memory, so remembering what you hear, and ignore other forms of memory. Many children remember what they see much more easily than what they hear. As we've just explored, the Funky Maths Times Tables cards are full of visual cues to help the children remember their times tables facts. The more the children use them, the more they will be able to recall the colours, shapes and positions of numbers. Once they can visualise a card, the facts are at their fingertips. Times table rockstars should be used to complement the repeated practice of using these cards, rather than as a main resource. These cards help your child learn their times tables through repeated practice. Research shows time and again that children do better at school when parents support their learning at home. Attainment in maths is significantly influenced by how much parents can support their child with regular practice at home, particularly in the early stages when children are building an understanding of the number system. Funky Maths cards help parents start early, from the age of 4, and provides the tools needed, such as cards and activities, to keep maths practice fun and engaging. Children not only learn the facts needed to meet the primary school goals, but the conceptual understanding and confidence needed to progress to higher levels. Through games played with parents and carers, by themselves or with siblings and friends, Funky Maths cards can make a difference 5 minutes at a time. The Funky Maths Times Table cards also makes maths engaging and fun with the different games. Practice isn't possible without it being engaging for children, and children love Funky Maths cards. The attractive designs invite children to play and invent their own games, while the activity suggestions we provide ensure coverage of key curriculum areas and a high level of variety so children and adults never get bored. Now we're going to explore how we use Funky Maths Times Table cards. In a mastery lesson, we vary the mathematical language. When focusing on rote recall, we keep the language consistent. So here you can see how we vary the language. We have the times table fact, 7 times 8 equals 56. We can say this as 7 8s are 56, 8 7s are 56, 7 times 8 is 56, and so on. So there's lots of different ways that we will explore saying this fact within a mastery lesson. When learning our times tables, we use a soundbite pattern called short form. Instead of saying 3 times 2 equals 6, we say 3 2s are 6. Similarly, instead of saying 2 times 8 equals 16, we say 2 8s are 16. We call this short form, and that's the language used across the school. The reason we use short form is because the shorter the better, the more rhythmical the better. Which one is harder to learn and why? It'd be great to pause this video and have a think. The first times table fact is 4 syllables long using short form. The second times table fact is 14 syllables long. We need to take into account the additional effort needed to learn a longer times table soundbite to give the visual support. If a times tables fact has more syllables, it is trickier to learn. Here we have an example of how Funky Maths cards can support our visual learning. Suddenly, 11 11s are 121 seems much easier. Here is a summary of how to use the cards for step counting and recall. First of all, place the cards out in order with 5 lots and 10 lots sitting below the rest of the cards. It's important to remember to do this as we take significant pauses here. This helps our auditory memory with remembering what we have said so far. Next, step count with pausing at 5 lots and 10 lots. For example, 7, 14, 21, 28, 35. 42, 49, 56, 63, 70. 77, 84. Turn over a card. Recall the fact by questioning your child in short form. Expect them to say the full soundbite back. For example, I would say, 5 sevens, and the children would respond, 5 sevens are 35. Step count again with the card turned over, and then turn over another card. Recall the facts on all of the cards turned over by questioning in short form. Expect the full soundbite back each time. Repeat until all cards are turned over or for as long as you wish to play. Remember, 9 times 7 is 63 is not the same soundbite as 9 sevens are 63. Be consistent and your child will learn more quickly. Next, I'm going to share with you mathematical language which can support developing reasoning at home. Here you can see some of the key vocabulary that the children will be exploring whilst learning their times tables. Here are these words in context. So for example, factor times factor equals product. Another way of phrasing this is multiplicand times multiplier equals product. Or multiplier times multiplicand equals product. The reason we can switch multiplicand and multiplier is because multiplication is commutative, like addition. With division, we can use the mathematical vocabulary dividend divided by divisor is equal to the quotient. You can also vary the position of the equal symbol in the examples shown below. Please pause the video here to see the definitions of the mathematical vocabulary shared. Here is an example of using mathematical language in context. Here we have the card which shows 3 2s are 6 or 2 3s are 6. Let's have a look on the left. There are 6 counters. There are 3 groups. There are 2 in each group. 3 groups with 2 in each. 3 groups of 2. 3 2s. And this leads us to our soundbite, 3 2s are 6. As you can see, there is another example on the right which shows the commutative law and how this can be explored in another way. There are 6 counters. There are 2 groups. There are 3 in each group. 2 groups with 3 in each group. 2 groups of 3, 2 3s, 2 3s are 6. So this is how you can deepen the children's conceptual understanding by exploring what the card is representing. Within Teaching for Mastery, we use STEM sentences and generalisations to support the children with articulating their mathematical reasoning. Here are some examples that can be explored at home to support the children with deepening their understanding of times tables. Let's have a look at the generalisations at the bottom left of your screen. Factor times factor is equal to the product, or if we vary the position of the equal symbol, the product is equal to factor times factor. A generalisation is a rule which can be rehearsed together, the aim being that over time it's not passively received and the children understand it with conceptual understanding due to their mathematical experiences. This generalisation can be rehearsed from Key Stage 1 through to Key Stage 2. In the other examples, you can see some STEM sentences. So these are STEM sentences are sentences with gaps that need filling in. I would model using that sentence and expect a child to respond in a full sentence, filling in the gaps. In school, we use I say as the teacher, you say as a child responding, and we say it all together. It's really important to rehearse STEM sentences and generalisations to embed the mathematical language. Here is another activity you can use at home. So for example, the children can focus on one card and show the connections they can see on this card using pictures, words or maths code. You can ask the children to write about the card using these words, such as factor, multiple, product, odd, even, prime, square, divisible by. And you can ask them how many extra facts can you derive, so recall, from the card. Here we would be expecting the children to explore the related multiplication and division facts and vary the position of the equal symbol. Here are some more sentence stems to help the children write about the Funkey Maths times tables cards. These are a couple of examples of the games that can be played with the Funkey Maths times tables cards. There are 12 games altogether that are shared within the Times Tables user guide. Let's have a look at the game at the top, which is called Slap. Place the 12 cards from your chosen times tables face up. One person shouts out a multiplication question. For example, for 21, they would shout, 3 sevens? The other players try to slap the card that shows the answer. The first person to slap the card and respond with the full soundbite wins it and takes it. The person with the most cards at the end wins. It's really important that across a week we create opportunities for our children to regularly practice their times tables. The reason being that in a week we will forget 90% of new input if we don't revisit and rehearse. If we revisit and rehearse new input 3 times in a week, we can expect to retain 90% of new input. This is a staggering difference for a short investment of rehearsal time. We hope you have lots of fun with flying high with times tables practice at home. 5 minutes a day will make such a difference.